agree with the status that it has. I think that given its metaphysical status, one sees only what one sees through that lens. This is not an issue of deriving the complex from the... Anyway, that's my opinion.
I can add a little bit that in this way that Kant was starting from an independent reason. And I think Girard, and you could also say this from Freud, is that reason itself is affected by mimesis. So reason itself is subject to contagion.
I completely agree with that. My point is simply that if you look at how the mimetic mechanism functions in Girard's thought, it is best understood under the old Kantian rubric. I don't actually accept the Kantian rubric because it is based in Cartesian dualism. But I think, therefore, Girard's thesis is based in, and to me, unacceptable Cartesian dualism, which, in the second part of my paper, I showed is clearly manifest in his Gnostic biblical exegesis. That is, the theological equivalent of Cartesian dualism is Gnosticism. So that in both the religious register and in the philosophical register, he is playing out Kantian dogmatics. I myself am not a Kantian. Yeah. Okay. That's not right.
Yeah. Another question.
Yeah. Hi. Just to perhaps follow the same idea of what Dr. Pugh was saying. When you're speaking about Kant, you're speaking about the idea of.
Hold it very close, please.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. This is
very close.
Very close. All right.
Swallow this mic in order to
You do actually.
just the mic.
Okay. First of all, you mentioned something at the beginning I thought was a bit curious. You said that the theory was too simple and too logical. This kind of seems to contradict a bit Occam's razor as a basic, and I mean, just even Thomas Kuhn's basic ideas of, you know, if you're going to replace a theory, you have to have something that explains beyond that, includes the requirements of the first theory. But that's a minor point. It was more in terms of what you're saying about Kant, about having a theory of everything. I mean, that in itself is a bit of a logical problem, just from the idea of theory of information. To have something that includes everything, you need everything plus a syntax to be able to describe it, which is beyond the size of the universe. But then you bring this back to the explanation of Girard's theory, and you say that it tries to explain everything. But I mean, again, there's a problem there, because it's everything within a specific field. It's not everything within the universe. So I don't think the parallel actually makes a logical sense.
Geez, for a moment I thought there was one person who agreed with me. I'm sorry. But insofar as the mimetic mechanism is the constitutional principle of civilization itself, and that's how it functions in Girard, it is therefore the constitutional principle of all signification. So there's no point in shifting into a so-called realist argument about all of reality. Reality for us is mediated through signification. That is what you're talking about is an issue to me, because the truth is that you are agreeing with me about what is not possible. You're just saying that somehow you don't think Girard's doing that, but I tried to argue that he was. What kind of time?
Yeah.
But that is, you agree with the same principle as I do.
That should ask himself.
But the gentleman who read the first paper assumed something which is very far from my views, which is that the mimetic mechanism works all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, and there is a whole range of things, of intermediary attitudes that make complexity present from the start, which he doesn't understand well. You know, another thing about these two papers is that I really feel ashamed of myself, because the first paper I feel was very simplistic and empty, and I understood every word of it. And in order to understand Sandor, I would have to read it 5 times. I understood only 10% probably of his paper, which is so rich, and with which I feel so much sympathy. I think the problem of meetings in which you only hear and have no printed paper is this one. That you feel ashamed of yourself for not being able to follow the best and understand. There is a little worse.
Yes, please.
Yes, I would be a bit skeptic of calling Girard's biblical exegesis Gnostic. I would say it's not more relevant to call Girard's exegesis agnostic than calling the Gospel of John Gnostic, as people have done, because, you know, John, he operates with dualism as light, darkness, truth, lie, and Girard, violence, love. Because Girard firstly sees Christ as fully human. He sees creation as good. God is the creator of good mimesis. He has no exclusive divisions of men, like in the Gnostic, of the material, the psychic, and the Gnostic at the highest level. And no notion of being thrown into an alien world. It talks, on the contrary, of the God who loves everyone, and we shall imitate. So I think that is perhaps a great exaggeration.
Let me say something about the earlier discussion, which is that one of the most powerful parts of Girard's ideas for me is the appropriative. And I wonder how we can think the notion of reason or decision-making, which issues for us in the Enlightenment, which is, of course, founding what we sometimes think of as secularism. How we can think that reason or decision-making is not an appropriation. That is not an appropriation precisely of a Platonic perspective that is historically well determined, that has its own dimensions, and that, to use a phrase from Michel Foucault, will pass away one day like a figure drawn in the sand at the edge of the city. It seems to me that we need to think about appropriations and appropriations. What appropriations are powerful? What appropriations don't get us anywhere? There's no extra appropriative position to be had. I'm listening to Richard, I'm thinking that he's thinking that there is some external appropriative position to be had. And I don't think that René is saying that. I'm certainly not saying that. I don't know of anyone that I value who's saying that. It seems to me that we have to begin with the appropriative. The appropriative precedes the reasonable. That reason is already an appropriation.